let us return to our comfortable position of meditation. Now we have in our mind this person whom for so long we've been malpracticing, bearing false witness against. And now we are going to perceive something. Out here somewhere is this person. Downtown at work, out shopping in the next room. But here where you are meditating is this mental image of that person. Nothing at all like what the person is. If you could draw a picture of that person as you're seeing them and show it to them, they'd never recognize themselves. And of course, it is the same thing probably if most of the people of this world who know you could just write down what they think about you, you would never recognize it as yourself. If they love you, it's a picture that's far too good, and you know it. And if they don't, it's a picture far too bad, and you know that too. But you're making the same mistake. The person in whose favor you are prejudiced, you're thinking far too good about. They don't deserve it humanly. And the other one, you're bearing false witness against, and they don't deserve it. Now let us forget the good that we believe about some. Let us forget the evil that we believe about others. And let us see what the spiritual truth is. Now you can't really know the truth about anyone without knowing their parentage, their ancestry, their environment. So we have to start out with that individual who's in your mind, and the first thing we discover is that we were mistaken about his parentage, because God is his father. Then if there's any law of inheritance, this individual has inherited his qualities, his or her qualities, from God. Qualities which include life and love and truth, justice, mercy, equity, benevolence. These are the only qualities God can bestow upon his image and likeness. These are God's gifts to his own children, his own qualities, the breath of his own life. God is the Father. God is the creative principle of this individual. God constitutes this individual. God made him in his own image and likeness, imbued with his own qualities. God's grace is upon this individual. He lives and moves and has his being in God's grace, in God's household of the family of God. This is his true identity, his true individuality, his true being. God is infinite, therefore the qualities of God are infinite good. And beside God there are no others. No other creative principles, no other powers, no other qualities. God is one. Now you will see that this truth about God and God's creation dissolves the human concept of this individual which you have entertained. Or let us suppose that this individual is being troubled with some sin or some disease. And again you realize But God is the only law unto this individual. There can be no laws of disease operating. There's only the law of life, and life is eternal, immortal. This person has no life to be diseased. It never had a life to be born. It never has a life to die. God constitutes the only life there is. Just see now what horrible concepts we have been entertaining. Mental concepts. Created by mind, and we thought mind was God. By the time we get through, we will find that any creative activity of mind is really devil. It produces its own image and likeness, nothingness, beliefs, concepts, appearances, mental images. That's all. And just like this individual in your mind, it never was that individual, it was a mental concept which you built in your mind. And you've disliked the concept that you yourself have created. Now that you know that this image in your mind is not truth, is not substance, is not reality, now you can begin to accept God as the creative principle of life. And you can begin to understand why you have been told not only to love God, but to love thy neighbor as thyself. Inasmuch as ye have done it unto the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Well, now just remember that inasmuch as ye are now knowing the truth about this individual, you are knowing the truth about the Christ, for Christ is this individual. Your mind has played tricks. You've been entertaining concepts and believing in them. And now you can see them in your mind's eye as mental images, not as the thing itself. The one way to dissolve this mental image is to go back to the parentage of the individual, and then to understand that this individual lives and moves and has his being in the heart of God and the soul of God, as the soul of God, as the life of God. This individual lives and moves and has his being in the household of God, of the family of God, heir of God, joint heir to all the heavenly riches. And all the time you're doing this, that false mental concept which you have built, which you're entertaining in your thought, and which is turning on you and rending you, it's dissolving. And when next you set your eyes on that person, love will begin to flow out from you to them, because you will more nearly see them as they are. And when you behold him as he is, you'll be satisfied with this likeness. And so we turn from that person now to some condition. We don't care what that condition is: rheumatism, lumbago, deaf, dumb, blind. Is it a condition? Or is this some picture that the universal human mind has drawn and which you have accepted? Is this not judging by appearances? Is this not just believing what the eye sees? Certainly a form of materialistic living. You can't believe what the eye sees. It sees a horizon in the distance. It sees railroad tracks come together. You have to see with your inner vision. Well, let's see. Whatever this condition may be, Isn't it a mental image in your thought? And if not in your thought, isn't it a mental image in the universal thought or belief or mind? Is it really God created? Well, let's find out. Has it existed since the beginning, like 2 times 2 is 4? Is it as eternal as apples coming from apple trees? Now, that tells the story, doesn't it? This thing about which you're thinking had a beginning, so it must have an end, because it hasn't the law of God to support it. It hasn't the life of God to perpetuate it. It hasn't the soul of God to maintain it, to feed it, to sustain it. You see, the substance of all life, of all real life, is in the word I. Now follow me. I am the bread and the wine and the water. I am life eternal. I am the resurrection. I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. I am with thee. So you see, I is that which is the substance of all that endures from everlasting to everlasting. Therefore, I cannot be the life of sin or disease. I can only maintain that which was created in the beginning. Now just think. This exists, this condition, as a mental image in thought. You're not responsible for it. Don't believe that your wrong thinking brought it on. Don't think that your right thinking is going to take it away. It was brought on by universal belief. The mere fact that we were born is the guarantee that we shall, until we die daily and are reborn of the Spirit, we shall be carrying problems around with us. Makes no difference whether you're a good man or a bad man, good woman or a bad woman. You're going to have lots of trouble as long as you're a human. You're going to stop having trouble when you start dying daily and are reborn of the Spirit. And the way to be reborn of the Spirit is to have the Spirit of God dwelling in you, so that you no longer judge by appearances, but you judge righteous judgment. Now, what do we think about this condition which we see is but a belief of this human sense, that which began with a belief of good and evil? Let's put that yardstick to it. Let's look this condition right in the face and say to it, you are neither good nor evil. You have no qualities of your own. You have no qualities of good or evil. You are sustained only by a universal belief in 2 powers, the power of good and the power of evil. God never made you. You were a liar from the beginning, a false image, a thought image, a nothingness. And again, knowing this truth dissolves the appearance of either good or evil. Knowing this truth dissolves every mental image, whether good or bad, and brings to light the spiritual realization of true identity, of true being, of true law. Now, when you have come this far with me, so that you've seen how you've been bearing false witness against your neighbor as man, woman, or child, when you go the next step and see that every condition in life that you have been battling, you haven't been able to destroy because you've been battling it, that very battle has perpetuated it. You'll now take a step into the Sermon on the Mount. Now I'm leading you into a new dimension of life, the Sermon on the Mount. And here, recognizing that there is no power in a mental creation, no power in a mental image, no substance, no law, no reality, you resist not evil. Now you relax. Now you can say to this person, I know thee who thou art, the Son of God, the Christ. Oh, the Master says, the Son of Man, the man whose breath is in his nostrils. Man never taught you this. My Father within you revealed this to you. Yes, indeed, spiritual truth reveals to you that I am the Christ. Whether that I am calls itself Joel, Bill, Mary, husband, wife, father, mother, child, spiritual vision reveals to you that I am Christ. Spiritual vision reveals to you that God never created evil. And therefore, evil doesn't exist except as a nonsensical image and thought, a nothingness, the arm of flesh. When you have seen this and you have carried your meditation to this point, you now have one further step to go, and that is to be very still and invite the Father to reveal himself. Speak, Lord, thy servant heareth. Now is the place where the still small voice comes in. It utters its voice, and this whole mental picture melts away. All right, rest a moment. What we're doing tonight is really taking this subject of God's kingdom, my kingdom, Jesus called it, my kingdom on one side and the world on the other. My peace give I unto thee, not as the world giveth, my peace. And that's what we are setting up within ourselves, the kingdom of God. My peace, the peace that comes through the still small voice. But not only peace, you can't have peace if there is sin or disease or poverty or war or rumors of war or depressions. You can't have peace. You can fool yourself into believing that you have peace, but it isn't. The only peace that comes is when there is no danger anywhere from anything. And there's only one way to eliminate danger, and that is to understand its nature. You can't battle it. You can't fight it. If you try to fight it with cap pistols, somebody will invent a revolver. If you use a machine gun, somebody is surely going to get some kind of a bomb. If you discover one medicine, somebody's got to find a stronger one. You never can overcome the dangers, the evils of this world by might or by power. The secret is by my Spirit, the still small voice. Every sin, every disease, every lack, every limitation, every danger, every bit of insecurity in this world must be overcome by my peace, by my grace, if you will, my grace, spiritual grace, not by might, nor by power, but by my grace. But the way to attain that is to understand the nature of these errors that appear to us. And the first thing we learn is that they are not person, and they are not condition. And for that reason, we have in our infinite way work a principle which is called non-reaction. You do not react to appearances, regardless of whether that appearance is an evil person, a sick person, a dying person, or a threatening bomb person. You do not react to it because you see it not as person or condition, but as universal belief or appearance, just as we have been doing tonight, having this person in our mind and coming to the realization that it wasn't a person we had in our mind, it was our own limited, finite concept of that person. And probably if we'd ever come to know the person aright, we would really find that they're the Christ of God, and we do. Now, it is in the same way. I ask students of the infinite way to embrace the entire world in their consciousness, so that their consciousness of truth can become the light of the world, the law unto the world, but they can only do it in this way. Don't embrace fear. Try to understand, first of all, that fear is atheism. All fear is atheism. There has never been a person yet that had any fear that ever had a God. Only the godless can know fear. Why? Well, if you have a God, tell me, what is there left to fear? Why, you don't even need a God. If you could just walk down the street holding the hand of Jesus Christ, you'd have no fear. And that would be the highest representative of God, but not God. There's one greater than Jesus Christ, who said, I can of my own self do nothing. If I bear witness to myself, I bear witness to a lie. And yet, if he were here and you could hold his hand, you'd have no fear even of atomic bombs. So you know right well then that if you're fearing anything, you haven't a God. You may talk about it, you may join churches or movements, you may give yourself fancy names like metaphysicians, but you haven't got a God. No one can have a God and fear. It's an impossibility. God itself is the annihilation to all forms of fear, any form of fear. The God-fearing man, the God-loving man, doesn't even fear when he walks through the valley of the shadow of death. I will fear no evil, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, for thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, there's a God-fearing man, there's a God-understanding man. No fear whatsoever. David with his little pebble up against Goliath. David had a God. He could have gotten along without the pebble, I'm sure. Jesus took spittle to a blind man's eyes. He could have gotten along without the spittle, I'm sure. Jesus didn't fear to touch a leper. All fear is atheism. Do you fear money or the lack of it? Do you fear bombs? Do you fear wars? Do you fear disease? Why? Why, are these more than God? learn first of all to wipe out fear in the realization there's God. God is. If you know no more truth than that, you can have no fear. Only the fact that God is enough. Why? Well, God cannot be low here or low there. God has to be in the very place whereon thou standest. God cannot be a respecter of persons, or races, or religions, or colors, or climes, or creeds. God is. That's enough. God is. Where I am, God is. All that God is, I am. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me. Oh, do you not see then that the first healing everyone has to have is that of fear? Because until that is healed, they haven't a God. Well, now let's put it the other way. You really can't be healed of fear. It's an impossibility. No one has ever been healed of fear. Because where there's fear, there is the belief of danger. And of course, if there's a belief of danger, there must be fear. But fear is dissolved in the realization of God. You don't get healed of fear. What you get is God. You get a realization of God. You attain an awareness. Then you find there's nothing to fear. And that's the only thing that makes fear go, is the realization that there is nothing to fear. That is the truth of every spiritual healer. No spiritual healer can heal any person or condition. No spiritual healer can be successful in healing while he's fearing the condition that he's called upon to heal. Cannot be. Might as well turn the case over to someone else if he fears it. If it's an infectious disease, contagious disease, and he's afraid to go into the home and sit by it, he shouldn't be on the case. If there's any condition there that threatens danger to him or her, they shouldn't be on the case. No one should be a spiritual healer while in them is a fear. For in them there is not yet God. And God realized is the only healer. Man isn't a healer and can't be. And all of the truth thoughts that are in all the books that have ever been written are not healers. God realized is the healer. But God realized gives you the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. No fear. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. My death or your death, I will still fear no evil, for thou art there. I am there. God is. Now, there is only one way for any of us to come into the realization of God. Let me tell you this. Let me give it to you out of a lifetime of experience. Reading books will not give you the assurance that God is. You've read all those books. You've read the Bible. You've read lots of metaphysical books. If fear hasn't been removed, reading another book won't do it. Or reading another author won't do it. It's not the way. There's only one way. The still small voice. It has to come up from within your own being to assure you. Nothing that another can say, nothing that another can write will give you the knowledge. Yes, you can accept it or reject it. But the assurance must come up from within your own being, and that is why so many years of my life are being devoted to the subject of meditation, practicing the presence of God, living consciously morning, noon, and night in the realization of God's presence, for there's no other way. Now, problems come to me, sometimes my own, sometimes the infinite way, sometimes yours. I have only one way of meeting them, and that is to be still inside and let the still small voice take over. Now we are facing conditions which make your problems and mine so nonsensical that we as infinite way students should be wasting very little time on our own problems. We are facing world problems, and the world is facing an issue. You might think that there are 1,000 problems in this world today, and I'm going to tell you that there is only one problem. I don't care whether you are thinking in national terms or international terms, or whether you're thinking in terms of disease or lack. There is only one problem for every student of the infinite way to concern themselves with. Material or mental power, or my power. That's all. Whether you have a problem of a headache, or whether you are concerning yourself for this minute with the international problem of bombs, I ask you, what is the enemy? And the enemy is material sense. The enemy is the universal belief that material force or mental force can control this world. And the truth is, this world is governed by the still small voice. It is possible to remove sin, disease, death, lack, limitation, and all war from the face of the earth, just as Jesus stilled the storm at sea through the still small voice. Whether you are dealing with a threatened tidal wave, hurricane, or all these threats of wars, you have only one answer in the infinite way. Is material power power? Is the mental power of these dictators power? Or is the still small voice still the only power? Now you first must demonstrate this in the small things which concern your own health and supply and human relationships. Then you have to demonstrate this in helping your friends, your relatives, your neighbors, your community. You have to demonstrate this in healing the sick wherever they are, whatever call may come to you. Then you must have these periods, at least one every single day, in which you accept your responsibility first as a citizen of your country, second as a citizen of the world. And you have to give one period a day, at least, to this question: what enemies confront us today? When you boil it down, you'll come down to the fact that it's material sense. It's either a threatened epidemic of disease, it's a threatened condition of weather or climate, it's a threatened condition of mental powers, it's a threatened condition of bomb powers. But it's all the same. It's all material sense. It's all a belief of material powers and mental powers. And what is the antidote? The realization that there is only one power. One power, not two. Not the power of good over evil. Not the power of the immortal over the mortal. One power, and all that power is embraced in the still small voice that comes up from within me, closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. And if I can get still, and the still small voice can utter itself even in a deep breath, even if it's only a sense of peace, a sense of warmth, I know then that this earth is filled with the voice of God, and material sense is stilled. Perhaps you haven't quite realized this in your metaphysical studies. Perhaps you have handled specific things in your life, not realizing that whether you were physically, mentally, morally, or financially sick, you really only had one disease, and that was material sense. Sometimes material sense says you were healthy, and that was an error because 2 days later you were sick. So material sense was all wrong when it said you were healthy. Now material sense says you're sick. That must be wrong because you're going to get a healing, and the next day material sense is going to say you're well again. And that's all wrong because next week something else comes up. The material sense says, do you see what I'm getting at? It's a merry-go-round. You keep going, but never getting any place. Because material sense is always testifying to the fact that you're sick or well, rich or poor, alive or dead, good or bad, moral or immoral. And all of this is material sense telling you, because the still small voice never says these things to you. The still small voice never says that you're good or bad, sick or well. The still small voice always uses the word I. And it said, I am all right. I am in the midst of you. I am the only power. I am the only reality. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Spiritual sense always goes back to I. My peace give I unto you. It doesn't say a word about good or bad. My peace give I. But if you want the good that the world can give you, oh, it can be good today. It can be very, very good. But that's no guarantee of tomorrow. So it is. Please let us remember, whether we are dealing on the personal level of your life and mine, whether we are dealing with your health, wealth, morals, relationships, you have only one thing to deal with, and that is personal sense or material sense. Everything is embraced in that term. And it's material sense saying you're well or you're sick. Material sense saying you're up or you're down. Now close your ears to material sense and go within and hear what the voice has to say. And how many times you'll hear it say, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. I will be with thee unto the end of the world. Fear not. Be of good courage. If you go in the waters, you will not drown. If you go through the flames, they will not kindle upon you. Do not fear these effects. Do not fear these concepts, these mental images. I am thy safety and thy security. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me. I am ordained. I in thee, and thou in me, and we are one. Fear not, God is. That's enough to know. God is. Open my eyes, open my ears, illumine me, teach me, instruct me in the way in which I must go. Who is my teacher? The still small voice within me. I need not consult man whose breath is in his nostril. He that is within me is greater than he that is in the world. Be still. Be still. Learn to trust the still small voice. Learn to be at peace. Learn to see that there's no power in the objective world. Do not fear anything that man can make. Why should you fear the creature? Why should you love the creature more than the Creator? Why should you hate or fear or love anything in the objective world, in the world of sense? Why do you fear that which you can see, hear, taste, touch, or smell, when I in the midst of thee, the invisible, am mighty? Learn, students. Learn to see that anything that exists in your mind as an objective thing is not to be feared, not to be hated, not to be unduly loved. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind, and then if you have any love left over, love thy neighbor as thyself. But don't fear an image in your mind, whether it's a person, a condition, or even those terrible bombs. Don't fear them. The still small voice in the midst of you is mightier than all of these. The still small voice in the midst of you is sufficient to tearing down all of these things. And we now are living in that age when it must be done. We have reached the zenith of material power, and that material power will either destroy the world or our spiritual realization will redeem the world. How? We don't have to invent some way to have bigger bombs, nor do we have to think up some way to make the Russians think the way we do. No. Men are failing at that every day of the week. Men failed in trying that in 1913 before World War I. They couldn't make each other feel or think the way they wanted each other to do. They failed that way in 1939. They're failing that way now. You can't make man think what you want. He's thinking from a different point of view. Don't try to win wars with the weapons of this world. No, not any more than you want the physical ills of your mind or body to be healed with physical remedies. You come to the place now where even if you have to resort to them, you don't like the idea and you don't want it. You've come to the place now where you know that every healing should be by spiritual means. And it hurts you more than it hurts anyone else in this world when you find that in some eventualities you have to sometimes resort to a material remedy. It even gives you a guilt complex, many of you. And that's because you have seen that really and truly God is the only power. And you're just mad when you can't demonstrate it. Now, so it is in this world. You know as well as I do that this world is to be saved not by might, nor by power, nor by any agreements that men make among themselves, but by my Spirit, by the still small voice. And the still small voice only operates through your consciousness, through the consciousness of the individual who opens themselves to it. That is why you not only have to go to a practitioner for help, it's why you have to find a good one. It's because anyone won't do. Any person can't be a practitioner. It has to be some particular person. Why? Because it has to be an individual who has been able to open themselves for that still small voice to come through. It isn't every person who can get a degree. It isn't every person who can get a diploma that can heal. Heavens, they're a dime a dozen. But the person who can so live as to be an avenue through which the still small voice can come, there's your healer, and that's who you have to find to do your healing work So it is with the world. The world isn't going to be healed or saved by people going to church and praying God to please save my people. Oh no. No, that's been tried. The Americans prayed for their side in the war, and the English prayed for theirs, and the Germans prayed for theirs, Japanese prayed for theirs, and the one that got there first with the mostest won. God had nothing to do with it. It's too late now for anyone to get there first with the most. Now the fate of the world is in the hands of the spiritual saints and seers and sages. They must come into their own, or the world is already lost. If we do not prove now that the still small voice can annihilate the storms at sea, the storms in men's mind, because what I've tried to show you here tonight is this: the only error there is in your mind. Once your mind has settled down and become calm, there's no more error there. No more hate, envy, jealousy, malice. No more rheumatism, no more lumbago, no more headaches. The minute you have the still small voice, you have peace. The minute you have peace, you have plenty of everything. This week, that is what we hope to show forth, that you will go out of here at night without thought, without taking thought for what you shall eat or what you shall drink or wherewithal you shall be clothed or how you shall be healed. That you shall go out of here at night in such a state of peace and calm that if you have a conscious thought, it will be, thank you, God is. That's all. No deep metaphysics. Please, you don't need deep metaphysics. Nobody does. We need the simple little truth that God is, and that's enough to know. We need the simple little truth that the still small voice is still the power that destroys the illusions of all this world. And so when you go out of here, just go out with peace. Just go out with an inner assurance that you're carrying something greater within you than anything that you will ever have to meet in this world. And it's closer to you than breathing. It's that voice. It's that smile of God. It's that something that the Master called my peace. Now, my peace doesn't come to you. My peace is something that you let flow out from you. Please, 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 students, don't go around looking for my peace. You won't find it. It can't come to you. It has to be released from within you. Wherever you go, you have to carry the idea, my peace goes before me. This presence goes before me. My peace is sufficient. My grace, thy grace is sufficient. You carry that, and then the people out here in this world all feel that benediction which you are releasing. Don't you expect to get my peace. Don't do it. You are the ones in this world who must bring my peace to the world. You're not the ones to get it. You're the ones to share it. You're the ones to walk up and down this world smiling in the realization God's grace is our sufficiency. Just think what that does to all these fears of bombs. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Think. Now you'll find that you are dispelling the fears of the men and women you meet. Everywhere you go, you are dispelling fear if you realize thy grace is our sufficiency. My peace I give to you. My peace, eternal peace, spiritual peace, heavenly peace, divine peace, eternal and immortal peace I give you. You are carrying it into the world. There's no supernatural being doing it. It's your being that's doing it. You are the instrument through which God's grace reaches this world. Without you, it's lost. Just as in the days of our Master, his world would have been lost but for his presence on earth. And when he left, the disciples had to carry the word. And without them, the word would not have been carried. And so it is today. This world needs today every individual who understands that God's grace is enough to save this world. Think what that means. Thank you until tomorrow evening, and please be here not later than 7:45, so that there can be at least 15 minutes of this piece before we start. Thank you.